There's a really spectacular essay in the book we're here to celebrate tonight, which looks like this. Many of you have it, I think, by the great American poet Frank Bedard. It's about James's films. I'm going to read a couple of excerpts from that essay just to give you a sort of feel for how the book is structured. There are a number of essays and a number of stills from James's art show of the same name from last year. So this is a little excerpt from Frank Bedard's essay entitled James Franco. A man with an axe is attacking a house. He's trying to demolish the walls, to obliterate whatever they stand for. The walls are flimsy, hardly more than a playhouse, a dollhouse. But the house doesn't go down easily. He's not trying to dismantle the house and stack the pieces for clearance. He wields the axe with fury. When the house is in pieces and flattened, he keeps attacking the pieces. Finally, he leaves. Then suddenly the house is back up again and whole. We watch the man return and again furiously try to demolish the house. There's a shot in Franco's The Feast of Stephen that crystallizes for me that he is a genuine filmmaker, a director who thinks within the medium in which he is working. He's not an actor making another actor's film, a series of well-photographed, well-blocked scenes. A boy has allowed 4 boys playing basketball to see that he's too interested in their bodies, that he's undressing them with his eyes as he watches. They know, though they have no proof, and they are right. They want to be in. The screen goes black briefly. You hear someone, probably the boy that's being chased, heavily panting as he runs. Now the crucial shot. You see someone's back approach a stone wall, pivot over it, and drop from sight. Then the camera follows him over the wall, but into what you haven't been able to see. 5 or 6 feet below is a path, and there the boys are dragging and hitting their victim. The shot is brief, not dwelt on. It has no narrative necessity. The usual way of shooting the scene would be for the camera to follow the boys that are chasing, or to follow the victim trying to escape, or to cut between. But for a few seconds, with great economy, Franco has given us an emblem of the action of the whole. Both the boy who's followed the other boys to see his interest in their bodies, and the boys who admit to themselves this interest and then decide to punish him, are leaping over the wall. Over the wall is sexual life and violence. The camera will follow them over the wall. This is the subject of the film. Masculinity in Me is the most frontal of Franco's attacks on the house. It is about the fact that we have bodies, that we urinate and defecate, that bodies are used to divide us up into genders, that we desire other bodies. Its heroes, the visual artist, performance artist Paul McCarthy, 2 narrators speak. One of whom, played by Franco, wears many masks. Each narrator, even when delivering what seems to be an earnest report on his life, reads from a script. In other words, the conventions of transparent sincerity are undermined even when the narrator's tone asserts guileless candor. The result is an extraordinarily dense texture, a texture that seems to significantly qualify everything asserted. The stories that the 2 speakers tell are animated by anger, a fury at the failures of the fathers, or by a disabused melancholy that this is the world.
All right, so Rick and I are gonna ask some questions now. So one goes in and out. No, this doesn't go in and out? Hi, James. So now that you've published, oh wait, that's yours. How long have you been making art? Did you always know you were going to make art? And the fact that your parents made art, did that have anything to do with that?
Yeah, my parents met at art school at Stanford. They were art majors and met in the class. And then I guess when I was born, well, my father gave it up and went into business, went to Harvard Business School, and then my mother gave up painting when I was born and started writing. And but it was always around, and my grandmother, my uncle deal art. My grandfather was sort of like a frustrated artist. He was an oral surgeon, but like the guy that always had a pad and watercolors, and as long as I knew him, was just constantly making sketches and watercolors with me and my brothers. And so it was just kind of always around. And so when I was in high school, I you know, all that was around were like classes in painting and drawing. So I just, you know, I did a ton of that. And then I went to LA. My parents strangely didn't want me to go to art school. So I didn't apply to any art schools. I wanted to go to RISD back then. And they said they wouldn't pay for it, so I didn't apply, and so all these years later now I'm at RISD. So you know, I wanted to do it for a long time.
And my follow-up question is, now that you've published the collection of short stories, do you hear the siren call of the great American novel?
Yeah, well, I'm working on a novel. I sold a novel. Maybe I shouldn't mention the word Amazon in here, but I sold a novel to Amazon. It was what but it's a book. It's not, you know, it's not like a book. It's a real book. And it's a book that I worked on at Columbia, and one of my former teachers, Ed Park, used to be an editor at The Believer, and now works at Amazon, read it and liked it, and so we're working on it. But it's because I've, you know, I have a hand in other things. I love books. I was an English major as an undergrad. I'm an English major now. I don't know, a student now, and I love books. But I also see the possibility of expanding them into other ways or transforming them. So when I think of a novel, I think of, you know, sort of traditional forms, but then I think of the potential of turning that into other things with images or things with other forms. And so a book like this one is sort of an inspiration for the novel. Like, okay, why couldn't the novel have, you know, pictures? Why couldn't the pictures be primary rather than just supportive things, or, you know, that kind of thing? So I think the novel will be more like that. Or just like, I guess the main thing for me is one of the big changes in my life, or developing points in my life, was when I had been acting professionally for like 8 years, and I realized that my role as an actor was to serve someone else's vision, that there were limits to what I could do as an actor, and limits to what films, commercial theatrical films can do. And so that's when I went back to school, and that's when I, you know, really started engaging my other interests very seriously, because I wanted to be, I didn't want to be like, I realized I was, as an actor, trying to do more than my job required. I was like essentially trying to direct the movies as an actor, and it just doesn't work that way, and it's bad for everybody and miserable for me. So when I did these other things, first it took the pressure off needing to do that, and I could just, you know, work with people and be a collaborative, cooperative person in these movies. But it showed me that, now I can step out of that role, that whether it's writing or directing my own films, or using film as raw material, like a sculptor uses clay. I could then turn around after doing a movie and look back at it as just raw material and make something else out of it. And I guess I feel the same way about books or kind of anything. I like to be able to step to the side. And so I think it's probably similar, like if you switch from fiction to nonfiction, it's a different voice, it's a different point of view. You can, you just have different access points to your subject matter. And so that's what really kind of interests me, and why I do engage with so many different things.